Hey guys, welcome to the Driftcast, the Drift Podcast, I mean. And I am your host, Travis, and I am with
Ben.
And this podcast is a little bit late today, so it was meant to be late last week, but we've had to push it back because I went to Matsuri and Ben was a bit busy as well, so we just didn't really have time to do it. Yeah, Matsuri was great. My car ran pretty well. I only had to change spark plugs. That was probably about all I had to do, all Matsuri, apart from hitting the wall.
That's pretty ideal for maintenance wise at a track.
Yeah, yeah.
Spark plugs, that's it.
Yeah, so no, it turned out pretty good. There wasn't much that really happened at Matsuri, but it was. I guess you don't want a lot of stuff like drama to happen at Matsuri anyway, like there has been in the last few years.
Yeah, I was going to say, last few years have been pretty all over the shop with some of the more unwanted bogan people throwing glass at people and track and cars. And
so
nice to have a chilled one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But no, car ran well. I hit the wall, but that's what that car's for, so that's fine. But yeah, other than that, I think there was just not very many standout cars there. It was just kind of the same people.
I was about to say, I feel like there was a lot of practice cars out there from the clips I saw.
Dude, I saw so many 180 SXs. Like every single car was a 180. But it's like I get one and everyone else gets one. But
yeah, because S13s are running out, mate. There's none left.
Yeah, totally. But no, so Gravy Garage was out there. The Dory Junkie was doing with Drift Samurai from Japan.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, and I really like the Dory Junkie JZX90 as well. That thing was
it's
beautiful.
Cool as
Yeah, I really love the color too. But yeah, I think overall it was pretty good, pretty chill, and I think a lot of people got a lot of track time too. So they had 5 tow cars running for everyone to get everyone off track really quickly too. So
that's
that was
good.
a certain positive.
Well, definitely a positive up from 2015 when I drove, because we were ending up doing like 15-minute lineups for someone to just get towed off the track.
Sit in the dirt for half an hour while you wait for someone to come tow you, because every single Nissan is out there in the dirt as soon as it gets wet. But that's a story for another time. What else happened in the last couple of weeks? We got 8.6 day in Suzuka
Motorland, in Japan.
Yep.
There was a few people that went to that.
Smaller track.
Very
Suzuka.
tight. Yeah. Very tight. Super technical track, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And was perfect for Corolla driving.
Yeah, there's lots of videos out for that too.
Yeah, check it out
really
on Instagram. That was, I think, Jesse Streeter and Macy and all that went there. So just check their Instagrams out.
I wouldn't be surprised if Noriaro was there too filming.
I really hope he was, because that'd be
good.
A rad video.
Yeah, totally.
Not enough 8.6 content from him anymore.
Yeah, well, after he sold his 8.6, so yeah. But what else was out? Joybreak released his Halfway Hangs video. Josh did that. So definitely check out Joybreak on YouTube. Stuff's amazing.
Yeah,
so
super good video.
Yeah,
definitely captures what Halfway is about.
Definitely. And I think, in essence, a lot of what Australian drifting these days is about. Which I suppose is a nice tangent into what drifting used to be about.
Definitely.
Which is the topic of today. And we're basically going to just have a little bit of a discussion about how the evolution... It's going to be a series that we're going to continue. Maybe once a month or once every month and a half kind of thing. And just about the evolution of drifting, how it has changed, what our predictions will be in the future for what's going to happen in the future, and just our overall opinion, I guess, if that means anything to you or anyone. But so drifting started 80s. And
early 80s, I'd say. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
There's a few videos on the internet of that.
Obviously, people were probably doing some clutch kicks and burnouts and stuff before then, but not really any kind of organized.
Organized
drift
drifting.
A couple of corners in the mountains of Japan.
Yeah, like I was watching a video. Well, it would have been a while back now, but yeah, you see a few old Lorels and Corollas out there. Of course, KP61 Starlets. You can definitely tell they're on choppies and weldies, and they're just doing one corner and doing the biggest clutch dop. It's the sketchiest like drifting you'll ever see, but it's hilarious.
No such thing as coilovers back then.
Yeah, no, definitely
and,
not.
Like LSDs, if you were rich, like it's just,
you'd be happy for a factory option one.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
No, it was definitely entertaining to watch. It is cool to see like they were just out there for the pure fact of having fun.
Yeah,
like. Or that particular 8.6 video where the dude's got a cigarette in his mouth and he's drifting a corner. I'm like,
that's just so Japanese as well. Like, it just really captures the essence of what it, at least what we see. You know, I guess it's kind of captures what you think drifting would be like in the 80s. And like, that's actually what drifting was like in the 80s because that's what we've seen in the videos. But I guess it's what's in your mind about what your thoughts of what you think it should be.
Yeah, what you envision it to be like back then.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the videos actually do show that is what it's like. But yeah, you'd have like, in the 80s, you would have had like 280Zs and really old RX-7s. Then you would have had like your bigger saloon cars like
your Crowns,
your Crestas, Chasers, blah, blah, blah. You would have had the A86s, but only like probably midway through the 80s, just as they started to get a couple of years old, they started to come out there.
Yeah, when they weren't, essentially just off the showroom floor, when they start seeing the second-hand ones pop up.
Yeah. And KP61 Starlets and stuff like that. And then maybe some older Sprinters, like the original Sprinters and stuff like that as well.
TA series ones and stuff,
Yep,
exactly.
And I think the biggest thing is that most of those cars were stock. Like, they literally would have just had like a pod filter or whatever the equivalent was back then.
Remove the air filter.
And you would have just gone through like your option magazine, because option started in, I think it was 1981.
Yep, something like that.
And you just go through your option magazine and you pick out the parts for your car. You got HyperRev as well. They do all of your parts listing. There's a couple of other magazines as well that just do parts for a particular model of car, and it's like a catalog, of all the aftermarket parts that you can buy back then, at least. And you just pick and choose what you want. And there was no internet. You couldn't order it online, so you just got to actually call shops and see if they've got one in stock and get them to ship it to you. But, that's the other thing, is there was no internet. So there's no, you would only know about drifting, especially in Japan with their culture-wise, where you just really are so tunnel-visioned about things. You wouldn't have known about drifting unless you knew someone who already knew about drifting.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not like today where you can just look it up online and go on YouTube.
You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone these days that wouldn't have an idea. If you said drifting, they wouldn't think it's like drifting from town to town like a wonder. They're going to be, just doing something stupid with cars, obviously.
Yeah, I think a lot of movies and stuff have highlighted that. But
most definitely. But back then, no internet and...
No internet, but that's the thing. Even today, Japanese people don't work on their car themselves. It's not really a thing. You take your car to a shop. So... and then back then, they definitely would also be doing that. There's no internet mechanic type things at all. Even nowadays, there's just not. They don't really do that. But unless they're just the biggest backyard hack of a car that someone's just slapped together with 2 or 3 cars and just made one transformer. But so lots of people would just take their car to their shop, and their shop would be a HKS dealer or an Apexy dealer or something like that, get in the parts that they want to put on their car, fit it for them, and then they just go drive it. But
that seriously just sounds like the dream.
I wish I could afford to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
But I can't even afford to fix my car, let alone pay someone to fix it for me. But I think the biggest thing is the cars would have been so basic as well. There was no such thing as knuckles. That's just non-existent even through the 90s. That
not
non-existent.
Until right up until maybe super
early
late
2000s.
90s.
When it started to become known, I guess.
Then the other thing is also suspension upgrades would have been few and far between.
But your knowledge on what you need isn't there because you don't have the resources. You're just talking to the owner of the mechanic. It's like going into your local mechanic and asking him to tell you how to build a drift car if he's just a normal, mechanic, and they have no idea. They're just like, I don't know, just make it go fast and it'll be
Put
right.
power at it, make the rear wheels really slippery, and that's drifting.
Yeah, just put skinnier tires on the back and then that'll drift. So they had no info, and that's why the cars are so basic. But as well, they have to just like physically go and talk to people or call people in other areas to go, hey, what did you do to your car to make it so good? Like, mine's doing this, why is yours so much better? And they'd be like, oh, I put in lock spacers in my rack. And they'd be like, what's that? So just lots and lots of figuring stuff out by yourself. And that's, I think, where my appreciation for it especially comes from, is just how little info they had, and yet how decent some of them actually could drive even back then, especially early 90s, maybe not 80s, but early 90s and stuff like that. You see some of the videos from industrial estates, and then on that highway part in Tokyo.
Oifudo. And
Yeah. And man, like some of them are actually like decent drivers. You could compare them to some of the, you can't compare it to a 600 horsepower car, but like a car of similar specs drifting nowadays by someone competent, their driving skills are about the same, or not too far behind, considering they had no info.
And no, crazy setup cars, like as you said, knuckles or proper coilovers for that matter. Yeah, it's quite cool to see. Hey, yeah,
definitely gives you a lot of appreciation for it. But then I guess in the 90s, the internet started to come out. I can't really speak for Japan as to how their internet went, but we had dial-up, and it was like, you see on all the forum pages like 56K beware, like, because it takes like an hour to load 2 photos. But at least in the 90s, they would have started to have a bit more info. But the first ever drift competition came in not the first, but one of the first. Came in 1989. So we might as well say like the very start of the 90s, and that was run by Option and in association with
Sachiya, and that was called Ikaten Drift, or translated as to Squid Drift.
I think that still ran through and run by Option up until the early 2000s. I don't think it's a thing anymore.
No, definitely not a thing anymore. But
interesting that they had something going from like the very beginning and still running through to around the time when like bigger competitions like Formula Drift and D1 were like, Formula Drift was starting and D1 was kind of at its peak.
Yeah, MSC was super popular as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting, those kind of smaller competitions really paved the way. I really hope that we can eventually find some of videos from those earlier ones. I can find some from like 1993, but you really have to dig deep into Japanese YouTube to really find that older stuff.
Yeah.
It's
especially with YouTube being so polluted now with repost videos and stuff,
and compilation videos, and then videos about cats and crap. But
essentially,
it's so hard to find good content from the 90s, because it's been like uploaded 10-15 years after it was filmed. So it's so hard to find, and it's in another language, so you can't really search it that easy unless you know what you're looking for. So hopefully I'm doing as much research as I can on that, but it's so hard to find proper information and proper videos. But from what I have seen, though, it's awesome, basically, from back then. Like considering the cars and the limited knowledge that they had, their driver level, if they were here now, would just
if they had the resources of now, it would be ridiculous to see how well they drive.
But I guess that's why you still see in D1, those older drivers that were there from around the beginning of D1 are still in D1. Like, they're still good drivers. I think the difference with them too is their shop owners are usually the drivers as well. Like, I'm trying to, like Shinji Minowa and stuff like that, they all own their own shop, and they have for a very long time. And their shop got as famous as they did in a way, like through sponsorship
videos, like old school video option doing
you
features.
Think of Kazama.
Yeah, Kazama Auto became massive.
Yeah, because they would come in probably with some kind of new technology, whether it be a knuckle or more power or more grip or something like that to give them the edge. And then everyone's like, wow, I've got to buy from Kazama because their car's crazy. Look how much lock it has or look how much power it has. And that's how they get like their build like that name for themselves. But they had the chance to back then because it was like amazing to see cars doing what they were doing with what these guys were just thinking up, So, because no one else had thought of that.
Yeah, it was a very open market back then.
Yeah. As well as cop trouble. I think it was more of an open market for doing whatever the hell you want too.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
like street drifting was at its absolute peak through probably
the 90s.
The 90s up until maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s.
And like, you'd see right up from, your average street car that was, still on standard suspension, throwing just in, choppies right next to someone that actually had money and threw coilovers and a diff at their car.
And 300 horsepower. Oh my God.
Boost controller wound it up.
Yeah, totally. But 300 horsepower was a big power then.
Oh, huge power back then.
Even in the early 2000s and stuff like that, that was big power.
Yeah, considered a rocket ship.
Yeah. And that's why GDRs and stuff got such a big name that they did, was because they were powerful back then. Not by today's standards. They're like, my Silvia can do that, with a bigger turbo and boost up and a tune, but back then for a factory car to be putting out the power that those cars did, they were big power back then.
Yeah, it was huge power back then.
And maybe one day people are going to look back at current generation GDRs and be like, that was huge power back then. And, they'll just be running crazy power out of their Corolla. But it's interesting to think of how much just power level has changed especially through competition drifting, because I think you have to pay attention to early Japanese competition drifting when you're talking about the evolution of drifting through it, because it has definitely affected it, because everything
it
that
all
comes
stemmed from it, if you really think about it.
Everything that new that comes in it is being developed for competition drifting and then slowly phase down the line into street drifting, basically.
But yeah, because as we were saying, Kazama Auto and stuff building their name, people would be, I saw this on this car at competition, I want to put it on my street car, and then they'd save up, buy it, put it on their street car, and then exactly. It's
and I think what else am I trying to thought? Just I guess just the overall level of cars, even suspension wise, they weren't having any kind of coilovers at the very beginning of drifting, and then moving up to having the suspension that we have now compared to then is just that we can just buy on eBay compared to the stuff that the price wise, of setting up a car.
Yeah, exactly.
The quality of a BC coilover off eBay is probably still way better than the quality of a coilover that you could get back then. Even for $3,000 comparable back then to now. So it's a lot more expensive to not only buy the car, because cars are still relatively new. When you think about
early 2000s, Silvias only just came out and people were drifting them.
Yeah, exactly. Even from 1 to 2 years old, people were drifting their brand new cars basically after 1 to 2 years old. And that would have been expensive. The cars were actually expensive to buy. They were $20,000 to $30,000 cars still, and people just go out and drift them. And I think that's a big thing with Japanese market, is that they'll spend money on parts from new, and that's why the newer 8.6 did so well, is because they gave them to those shops to develop. And they did the same back with the Silvias and stuff like that. All those shops got Silvias at the start, so you could buy parts, but it's nothing to do with drifting until probably the mid 90s. I would say you could probably
at least mid 90s.
Yeah. What about competitions in the 90s? I guess
in the
D1
90s
would have started.
Yeah, D1 started coming up mid 90s, and then that
Drift Tengoku started in 1996, I think it was, as well.
Yeah, and they had their, their team competitions with like three-way drift and stuff like that.
And the videos and stuff of that too, you know, like you think of Hot Version, and their like Tsushia orientated drifting videos, you know, they are even so popular even today. You know, people still watch them.
Most definitely.
And I think that, I guess, builds up the hype too worldwide. The first ever drifting events that came to America were brought over by Video Option. And that was at Willow Springs in California. Actually, was one of the first drifting events ever in the United States. And that was thanks to Video Option that came over and did that. And you want to know what car won that? A Honda Civic. Like,
what a hero.
Yeah.
What a hero.
Yep. So, like,
F Dory for the win.
Yeah, but that Honda Civic would have rocked up and gone, what's drifting? You know, like, oh, it's a Japanese car. Mine's a Japanese car. I'll come drift that. And he won. Like, but that's how much stuff's changed. Like, but yes. And
how
I think that was like
changed,
mid-90s that I think the Video Option did that. Like,
yeah, it was like 96, wasn't it?
Something like 96. Yeah. So it probably would have been one of the first Video Option videos. Like, no, Video Option started doing videos in the late 80s.
Yeah, it was
89,
91, something like that.
Because I think that's when they started filming the drift event too that they were in.
The Ikaten Drift,
Yeah, so yeah, it's you know, so I guess you could say drifting in America then started in around 1996, which I guess would be around when the internet would have first started coming around as well, you know, and then those people would have been watching videos of drifting coming out in Japan from then on too, which then leads on through the late 90s into the 2000s when people really started seeing what was happening in Japan as far as drifting goes and bringing that to the States.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the first D1 event that came to the States was 2003 then. So, and then after that, Formula Drift started. So, but I think there was a lot of grassroots stuff in between like 1996 to that 2003 period.
There was a lot of grassroots stuff that happened in America. You can still find videos of it, you know, like...
Yeah, right.
Taka, I know, flying 8.6 from Formula Drift. There's heaps of stuff from him back in, what was it, like 97, 98? And him sitting in there
in
almost
America.
bone stock, and a bone stock Corolla.
Yeah, right.
And he's just like throwing it around, like drifting. That was really cool to see. And then they did the big documentary on him. If anyone's seen that, that was really pretty cool.
I might have watched it actually, yeah.
Yeah, it was about when he was the last 8.6 in Formula Drift competition, one of the original 8.6s.
Oh, do you mean D1?
No, in Formula Drift.
Formula Drift?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this is like going back a few years, but yeah, he was rocking the last A86 in Formula Drift, and they did a big documentary on. And
yeah, right.
They actually brought up some of those videos of him back in like the late 90s when he had his original A86. So
right. So that must have been, he must have ended that in around like the late 2000s then.
Yeah, it was around 2008,
9.
Oh no, it would have been like 13.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was right up until then.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, right. Because I mean, Wayo was running the like 200 horsepower A86 until what, like 2005, 2006 in D1.
In D1, yeah, and that's when it started becoming a bit much to.
Yeah, because they were getting power, you know.
Back then, yeah.
And I guess that's when Daigo Saito came to America and destroyed all them with the power that he had, because America wasn't used to the power that D1 had been building up over the years with their cars, you know, chasing power, and then horsepower race came into America as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when you consider even then, I guess in Japan in the 2000s,
like early 2000s, like 98, 99, you've still got like, that's when horsepower started becoming a bit of a thing there. You know, you've got Kuroi, who came in with his RB26 S13, making like 600 horsepower, 550 horsepower. Right. That was mind-boggling for back then. And he'd drive that on the street.
Yeah.
He would street drift it. Like, that was... That's something, you know, like competition cars getting street drifted. But yeah, you know...
Well, I was even talking to a guy the other day about... He used to go to Ebisu, like... before power vehicles was even a thing at Ebisu. And he said that he did the first ever G1 GP, which is the Gaijin 1 Grand Prix. There's only non-Japanese drifters drifting at Ebisu. And he was up against a guy from somewhere in Europe that had like a 600 horsepower S13. Like, back then, this is like 2010, 2011. Like, that's crazy. Like for a practice car, you know, like not even in your home country to have that, which makes you realize how much power like D1 and stuff would have been running in actual D1 even then, you know, like 10 years ago. Like, so I think the power really jumped up in the 10-year jump from the 90s to the early 2000s. Like, that's when power just went crazy in Japan.
Yeah, well, you know, they through the 90s, you know, the first Apexi fuel controllers started coming out in, 95?
Yeah,
and that was what we
that,
have in my mate's Corolla, which we're currently tuning with.
You know,
super
but
basic.
It's still relevant today. You know,
you can still use it.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously then closer to the early 2000s, you know, Power FC started coming out, and they would just bolt into your, you know, your factory loom.
Everything with Japan is bolt in. There's no custom. There's no such thing as engine swaps. You know, up until recently, basically in like normal cars.
Yeah,
but like you just bought the car that had the engine in it that you wanted. You know, like there was no such thing as putting an RB in your S13 up until recently. Basically, I would say probably only in the last like 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, now that SR20s are starting to become a bit more
everything's
scarce.
just becoming more scarce as well. But definitely back then, like you wouldn't have seen anything with engine swap unless it was a race car.
Yeah, unless a competition car, you would have just seen your Silvia, and that would have been just SR20.
Yeah, and it, at the most would have had a HKS GTRS turbo kit, and that's about it. Like, and
you know, your Power FC to match, and
no, probably not. Probably would have had a HKS ECU match to suit the turbo that's going on it. Everything you would have just bought from your HKS dealer mechanic.
True.
You know, like, the Apexy stuff would have been for the Apexy turbos.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't mix and match because they just want bolt-on, ready to go OEM replacement, but with more power.
Yeah.
So, but even still, you know, you look at Drift Muscle this day and age, and that's the competition run by Kishi Tsuchiya now. And my friend Wataru drives in that. He drives an S13. I think he came third last year or something like that. I know he at least came third in one of the main competition events.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and his car is just essentially like a disco potato on an SR20 DET. And it's just about driving fast, you know. It's not big power. So there still are non-big power competitions run in Japan. So... and at Ebisu, most of the cars aren't big power. But at Ebisu, and I think at most Japanese tracks, they're not like Australian or Western tracks at all. They're not massive. Japan doesn't have an unlimited amount of area to put a massive racetrack on. Like Fuji, for instance, is huge, but there's no other tracks like that size. Like, I can't think of any off the top of my head that would be the same. Like, how big's Suzuka?
Yeah, Suzuka's pretty big. That'd be on par with Fuji.
They would actually be the two biggest tracks.
They're two GP tracks. That's why they're so big. But you even look at Tsukuba. That's not that big.
No, Tsukuba's tiny.
Yeah.
It's tiny. You know, Nikko's tiny.
Yeah, that's puny.
Yeah. Like, Ebisu, their big track at Ebisu is probably only as big as Tsukuba. Like, and it's for motorbikes. I can't even think of any other big tracks. Like, Bahoku is tiny.
It's on top of a mountain.
Yeah, like, so Japan just doesn't have the room for these big tracks. And Suzuka main track and Fuji main track, you pretty much don't drift on. I think maybe only D1 does.
D1 did competitions on both of them, but I don't think they're running them at Fuji anymore.
Yeah.
Suzuka, I think they still do.
Possibly, yeah. But those cars are quite high horsepower, you know, and they're competition cars. They're in a totally another setup. But you think about the normal guy, they're running cars that are on Toge. And I hope I'm saying that right. And Touge or Toge, however you want to say it, or whatever other way you can think of. But their cars are set up for that. You don't want lag as a number one. And if you're not having lag, you're probably not having big power. So they're running just a HKS GTRS turbo or a stock turbo with boost up. And that's all you need at tracks like Ebisu and Nikko and all your Toge tracks. Yeah, you don't want big power. Like, for instance, my R32 is an RB20 DET It is got a exhaust. It's got a front mount, LSD, and boost up to 9 or 10 psi at the most. I don't even have an upgraded fuel pump. That's like, it's a factory fuel pump. That's how much my boost is up. Like, that's all you need though. Like, and my car is fast at Evisu. Like, it's genuinely fast. Because even like your higher horsepower cars, like a JZX 100, they will, they're almost too quick, you know, to like, well, it's not too quick, but it's more than enough power, like way more than enough. You would consider it compared to Queensland Raceway if you were running a 450 horsepower car versus a 200 horsepower car. You know, you can still do it with a 200 horsepower car, but a 450 horsepower has almost too much power, you know? And that's the same with having like my 32 versus a JZX 100. That's how big the power difference feels there. And people are too scared to drive flat foot in a JZX 100 on North course and stuff like that. It's too fast. Like,
yeah, the potential for too much grip and too much speed.
Yeah. So, you know, unless you're very confident in your driving, which most of the people aren't in a foreign country when they go there, and neither are the Japanese because it's their daily. So that's why they don't run big power, because you don't need it for any Japanese tracks. You don't need it for Toge, and you don't need it on the street. So they're fine.
Yeah, basic setup cars yet again, you know.
Yeah. And I guess back to cop trouble over there. Now you can get done in a gang.
Yeah, because street drifting is now considered under gang activity, because obviously it's done you're not going to go by yourself most of the time. You go with a group of friends. So if you get done, then court, they can legally hold you for 3 months under gang activity.
See, normally you can be held for 30 days without charge under just normal circumstances for pretty much anything. But if you're in a gang, it's 3 months. That's a long time.
Yeah, long time sitting in a jail cell for, you know, waiting for them to decide what to do with you.
Yep.
Whereas back then, you know, they kind of just they didn't really know what drifting was. It was like, what are these idiots doing? Go away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yankees.
You know? And
yeah, totally. Like, and they would just put their little megaphone on and be like, please get off the road. You know, you're not allowed to do this here. Please,
please
being
leave.
a disturbance. Stop. And that's all they do. Like, they're not even going to try and like
no, they
arrest
wouldn't
them.
have chased them or anything. No,
No way.
You know, very rarely was anything happen. Just kind of showed up, flashed the lights, jump on the megaphone.
And you
please
can still
leave.
see that. You can still see that happen at Daikoku Futo car park, because when everyone comes in and parks their cars there, the police will come in with their sirens on and on the megaphone and just speaking in Japanese, going, please leave, this is a public place, you can't be here, blah blah blah. And no one does. And they'll probably just drive around revving their engines, and then all the bozo bikes will come in and just like rah da 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 rah da da. It's great. It's a good time. But that's just how Japan was, even with drifting back then. Like, they just don't have any power over it. The other thing is, if you get done speeding in Japan, they have to have your face on the photo, or else they can't fine you.
Funny enough, that's the same thing in Germany. So
really, yeah, right.
If you go through a speed camera somewhere, just cover your face.
Nice.
Note to self.
Good tip. But yeah, so you think about the camera setups that were back then.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
We can barely find videos of the stuff, so the police obviously didn't have many videos.
Nah, and you think about the size of, you know, your average video camera back in, like 98?
Yeah, or
earlier, you know. And then you try and think about sticking that in a police car for a dash cam or something so they can record you.
Well, remember, it's got to be recorded onto a tape. So they'd have to continuously change tapes too.
Yeah,
so
that's
just not going to happen. So there's no footage of the police catching these guys doing it. It's just like their word against theirs. So they just didn't bother up until, I guess, around the time when police have cameras and they can prove it.
Dash cams started becoming a thing, or permanently mounted ones for police cars.
Mounted police cameras and stuff like that, and as well as like your street cameras.
Yeah, your traffic cameras. And, you know, you look up until recently, probably even right up until 2010, there wasn't anything super great high definition that you'd actually be able to capture anything properly.
You have to be able to see a license plate,
you got to be able to
especially at night.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, I think that's a big another big reason why they got away with a lot more stuff back then than what we do now. I'm not saying to go out and do it, but put your life in your own hands. But
I don't make your decisions for you.
Yeah,
What?
Ben. But yeah, so I suppose totally
you look at
comparing that to
also
now.
security cameras on buildings. That wasn't a huge thing back then.
Yeah,
As a big thing now, and shop
Next door.
owners don't want you
next
drifting
door
out the
neighbor.
front of their warehouse, so they'll stick a camera sitting out on the road so they can catch you. It's
Your next door neighbor complaining that you're getting home at 4 a.m.
I've had that happen before.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, so police trouble's obviously changed over the years, and that goes hand in hand with how drifting's changed, because I think a lot more people have gone and moved towards track-orientated stuff. You definitely don't see anywhere near the toge stuff that you used to see.
No way.
So, which is a shame. It is a shame, but at the same time, it's inevitable. So...
Yeah,
and even like the famous togeis have speed bumps on them now too. So even if there wasn't cameras or you didn't care about getting caught, you can't do it because you're just going to be practicing over Manami over every single speed bump. So
corner exit, jump, straight, jump into corner.
Yes.
No
thanks. But there's still plenty of active toge in Japan.
Oh,
you
most
just got to
definitely.
know the right people.
Exactly.
And no, I'm not going to tell you who they are. But if you know, you know. If you don't, too bad. Do your research or don't go watch, because they probably don't want you there anyway. So it's just more risks. They don't want to get chucked in jail for 3 months, so why the hell would they take a foreigner with them? So, but so anything else you wanted to say on, I guess, the 80s and 90s?
Well, I guess you could talk about how, style of car has changed from...
Yeah, the looks of a car.
Yeah, like you look at right up until maybe 96, 97, most cars would just be standard aero, and you'd...
Yeah, or a standard style aero.
Yeah, it wasn't anything too crazy.
There's no such
It'd
thing
be
as a
lip
BN kit or something like that.
No, it'd be just like your lip kit and probably the equivalent of, your Bob Jane specials from your tyre shop down the road.
Pretty much, yeah. There's no such thing as like offset kings and,
it
like
wasn't
negative
custom
offset.
wheels,
What's that? Like,
and then you start looking in that really short period between 96 and 98.
as
And
well
all
as
of a
you're
sudden-
probably running either smaller wheels than factory, the same size, or 1 inch over. There was no such thing as running 18s on a Sylvia.
No.
And 17s would have been kind of a thing, but only towards the later 90s.
Oh, definitely. Most things would have been 16s. Like you
Yeah,
look at
15s or
6
16s. Yep.
S14 when he came out, 16s on
Meshies,
it.
Meshies, tries.
SA3Rs, love them.
Yep.
But yeah, you look at that jump from like 95, 96 to 98, and people were running, bigger wheels, smaller wheels, cool wheels like Longchamps, Meshies.
I guess that's when people were starting to chase power, because then they were starting to chase grip.
Yeah, and
So
that's
it goes
when
hand in hand.
all that started happening. And then you look at some of the other competition cars, they were starting to come out with their team names, and they'll be like, oh, we want to make our team cars look cool. So they started buying more out there body kits, and that's when Veil Slide, BN,
Vertex,
Vertex,
Yep.
East Bear, all those guys were like, oh, let's start making some out there kits.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what brought us the most awesome style of drift car there was, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Through like late 90s, early
late
2000s.
90s. But you think about it now, we're going back. Because everyone's going back to that early 90s style where they're running the Longchamps and Meshies on a Sylvia. And that's great. I love that.
I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
Going back to what it was, just a cool car doing stupid things.
I think a lot more people, even what you saw at Matsuri, is people are going back to a more basic car too, as far as power goes. It's almost like fashion, because fashion is too. It kind of goes back vintage style, I guess.
It does a full
Drifting's
loop and
going
comes
into
back.
vintage again, like it's cool to be vintage drifter. So yeah, totally. But I guess you got like the real style changes of that period would be just wheel size and aero. I wouldn't really say like fitment or anything was really a thing even in the 90s.
No, it wasn't a big thing back then. It was just like you buy wheels, if they fit, they fit. If they didn't, they didn't. It comes back again to cop trouble. They didn't care if your wheels were poking out the guards. They were like, what are you doing?
But people
home.
probably didn't even think that was cool. Like I look back through my early 2000s car magazines and stuff, and there's no such thing as like fitment. Like
Nah. That you notice that a lot of them are still pretty high off the ground, you know?
Yeah,
It wasn't
totally.
crazy low cars. Like,
No.
even my Skyline at the point where it'd be, they'd probably consider in the 90s to be stupidly low.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like a four-wheel drive now.
Yep.
So,
Sad times.
but that's how it is back then, you know. Like, and cars probably handle better too. I mean, their roll center are a bit better, but that's subjective.
Subjective. I can't argue with that. When I raised the Skyline off, it did drive a lot better.
Yeah, right. You did notice a difference. Yeah, nice.
Sadly enough. I still want to go back to being railed. But
You know what I noticed the difference with having my 180 so low is that instead of me smashing wheels into the gutters off Queensland Raceway, I smashed my rear quarters into the gutters.
did see that when I walked past your car the other day.
Yes,
Yep.
the dirty big dint from the edge of the track.
Lovely.
From doing a dirt drop. But yeah, so wheels, aero. Maybe they would have done some very basic interior stuff that they probably already were doing anyway.
Yeah,
like no
some-
kind of changes to that.
No. But the other thing would have been, stickers started becoming a thing. You
Yep.
know, like their
Yep.
team stickers, which obviously now you see a lot of the old cars that somehow survived the 90s and 2000s, like the feature that Noriaro did on that blue Garage Chapel 86.
I don't. Oh, I think I remember
Yeah,
that
that
one.
notchback that's real beat
Actually,
up
I
at
do remember
Eversu.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's still got some of those original stickers on there. That was
Yes.
a big thing, and window banners and, right up until, 2000, they started doing liveries down the side of their cars,
Yeah.
which was really cool. And,
I guess the polar or parallel car scene to the drift scene back then that I suppose you have to talk about is the Bozozoku cars that were back then, because they were the hooligans and
the hooligans of the time.
yeah, like they were what we are now. Back, that's what they were then.
Yeah, the social outcasts and
Yeah.
the people that didn't
I'm
fit
pretty
in.
sure that's what Bozozoku means.
Yeah, it's
just
something
like,
along those
something
lines.
along the lines of like social outcasts, like abnormal kind of type.
outside the box, essentially.
Yeah.
They didn't want to conform with the rules of Japan at the
and
time.
that's having a car like Shakotan. Is it Shakotan? No.
Kyosha style, like really low wheels, like really
What's it?
only
Yeah, when
camber.
it drags the hanger on the ground.
Yeah, that's more Shakotan style. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
That's right. Yeah, it is Shakotan because
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Shaken is the Rego,
Rego,
but
yeah.
Shakotan is that really low hangering
as
Bozo style, and that moved on from the motorbikes that they had as well, and into the cars, and you got there. It's always like four-door stuff. Like you think of your JZX 81s,
GX
71s,
71s,
yep.
your Lorels, your Crowns,
Yes.
and even
Yep.
spanning back to like early 70 Crowns, like
Yep.
the real
Yep.
cool ones. Yeah,
Yep. Totally.
and that also comes back. Then you look at your Hakuskas and Kenrays. They all have those big bolt-on Kaido,
totally.
Kaido
Yeah.
racing flares and the
Yeah.
big exhaust and super low.
Yeah, I think I've got some models of them. Yeah, I've got that one there from the Liberty Walk cars. His old
Yeah.
stuff is all based on that kind of style. But that kind of as well kind of filtered into drifting a bit too. Like it kind of like crossed paths around late 90s and stuff, I would say.
Yeah, especially with the the bolt-on over fender style
Yeah,
on the
Totally.
S13s
That's where it
and
all
stuff.
started,
all
man.
started there.
You think of Rocket Bunny, that all started. I've actually spoken down with Kimura, and he used to own an A86, and he used to do the Osaka Loop line, the the
Kanjo-zoku,
the Kanjo.
Kanjo loop,
Yeah, Kanjo Loop line. And that's what he started out. That's what gave him his name. Like, that's what made him famous was the 4.6 Customs, A86s, and the Civics. That was him. That was how he got famous because he was doing the body kit. So that he used to be just an excavator driver. He just dropped out of high school, and became an excavator driver. That was his day job.
Oh, wow.
And then was just at night was just racing on the loop line, and just built his name up through that. And then his friends started wanting panels made, and so he would make them for his friends, and then it just kind of built on from there. And that's where he kind of got his infamously from. And he still got his mask, because again, with the cameras, you have to show your face to get a fine. He used to wear like the Freddy mask.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So that's where like, and you kind of like hear like rumors of that, you know, like wear like the Freddy masks and stuff like that on the Kanjo and your
One Gun.
Yeah, One Gun. You know, that's where it all stemmed from, was those guys. Like, and it's just so cool. Like, if you ever get the chance to sit down with someone from that era and really talk to them about it, it's amazing. Like what I'd do to live back then.
Oh,
like,
man.
Yeah, with the knowledge I have now, can you imagine? But yeah, like, you know, and that's what they started off with, and that, like, all of those little like side like racing, like street racing things of you're like your Bozo, your Kanjo, your drifting, they all ended up kind of mingling together and to create what drifting is today. Totally. And I'm probably missing heaps of other types of lesser known things in Japan that have come in to all be a part of it and create the style that we have today. And yeah, like the evolution of drifting is not just drifting. It's taken influence from everywhere.
Well, that's it. You got to remember, is like a lot of the people that did all that stuff also did drifting. You know, you look at the one gun races, they'll be like, oh, I've got a one gun car.
Their
but
friends
then,
did.
You know, and then, they'd bring their own style from their one gun racing car down to their drift car, and they'd be like, oh, this is cool. I like this. And
yeah, I'll take that from that. You know, I want to get these big fender flares, but maybe just not as big as a Bozo car, and start putting them on my car. You know, all of that. Oh, I like the Bozo wheels, like how they're so wide. I want to put that on my car. You know, like, and how low they are, and that's when low started to come in as a style. And and then that real like street car, race car style came in, like that. Like, it's not Hot Boy, but it's like just like like a real like street driven race car. That's all come from Kanjo and One Gun style as well. So yeah, it's really interesting to just be thinking about like that kind of influence that those other things in Japan have had, you know, on it, and even how it filters down today, you know, like especially with how lots of it is going back to that vintage style, you know, and it makes you wonder what's going to be the next big thing. You know, we've had stance, we've had that vintage style,
we've had the missile crisis of everyone.
We've had the missile stuff, you know. I think missile will always be there because there's always people with less money.
Oh, yeah, there's missile, but I mean, like the whole thing of just cut the fenders and drive and have wheels poking out the cars. That whole, you know, 3-year period of just cars that were cut up, left no panels and stuff.
So the biggest thing to remember,
there's practice cars, and then there's, you know, what that was.
But as well, just always remember, if you can't call your car a missile car unless you have another nice drift car. Because if you don't have another nice drift car and you only have a missile car, it's not your missile car, it's just your car.
Just your drift car.
Yes. So it's only a missile car if it's your practice car. So just remember that, people. Don't call it a missile car, it's just your car. But anything else that you can think of that you want to add? Anything, I guess, people that have changed? Who can you think of that were big people in the 90s that have kind of stick through? Kiichi Sushi is definitely one. And anyone in like option.
Taniguchi's still around, and that guy can drive what I would give to have half his skill.
Yeah.
We've got Shinji Minoa, who started out basically nothing in his 86, and as we said, like built up, has his own shop and his own products, and and I guess you have Kimura as well, because he's all through the 90s, and then now he's massive now. Huge now. Yeah.
And that's a 4-person shop. That whole Rocket Bunny 46 Customs business is a 4-person band.
Wow.
Yep.
Good on him.
He had a stroke after about 4 years ago, after getting a car prepped for the big auto show in America, whatever it is. SEMA, that's the one. And he had a stroke, so he pulled back a bit on everything after that. But literally every night he's at that shop, just on the computer, designing sending it to his CNC machine to cut out the foam panels and sticking it on the car out the front. Now he'll have like a, like say he's just been given the Lexus RCF by Lexus. He'll just have that just sitting out the front, under like a makeshift carport with sides. Like that's where they fit all the panels. That's where they paint the car, everything. That's just all done just in this makeshift carport thing out the front. And he opens up the roller door, okay, and where the CNC machine is, where he cuts out all like it's styrofoam that he uses, and it's just like all this foam dust that just comes out like out of the door. It's just crazy. It's just white. The whole room's just white with styrofoam.
Fire out.
Yeah, that's what he does every night, 7 days a week. Like that's his life. He doesn't work during the day, and yeah, like you think about it with the people that are around, like you think about Shinji Minowa's and those kind of shops and businesses, they're all from the era of the 90s. Once they're gone, there's nothing of that in Japan. There's no younger people taking up these newer businesses. Like once your Tech Arts is gone, your Rocket Bunny,
Yashio Factory, old mate's getting pretty old now too.
Yeah, man, they're all getting old, They're all older than my parents, and in Australia, our parents' age are starting to get to that age where they retire. They're like 10 years off retiring probably by now. So it's a worry when those guys do retire, what will change in the scene, especially in Japan, is where I really worry. We're going to lose so much info that they're holding in tight, and so much of the stuff that like is so important in current scene has come from Japan in some way, shape or form and molded to work with Western culture, I guess. Like stance wasn't invented in America. It was in Japan, like that's where it started, like all the 90s stuff came from Japan. All your vintage style, I'm just going to call it vintage style, like drift cars, they started in Japan. They didn't start over here, So once we lose those innovators from the 90s that are still going today and are still innovating today, because they are, like Rocket Bunny is innovating even still now. That's where people look to. Once those guys are gone, we got nothing, in Japan at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a very sad day once, in 10 years' time when we really see those guys very filtering out completely from it. So
pack up and...
Yeah, because they're kids.
Scary to think of that.
Yeah. For instance, when I was talking to Kimura, he's got 2 daughters. They're not interested in cars at all. And their husbands aren't interested in cars at all. So he's got 1 apprentice that he's teaching. I think his name's Satomi. I've got him on Facebook. Anyway, yeah, he's got the orange. He has the orange. What do they call them in America? FT86s. Is that what they call them in America?
FRS or BRZ. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a left-hand drive FRS in Japan that he imported from America and then fit the Rocket Bunny kit too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is like not heard of in Japan, like to do that. So yeah, really cool. But yeah, so anything else you want to add?
No, not that I can think of. We're starting to push into like 2000 now.
We're
so
really starting to push in the 2000s.
Keep that for the next.
That's a lot of info in the 2000s.
2000s will be a big one.
You have to do your homework. But okay, drift news. Anything going to be happening in the next couple of weeks then, or at least in the future that we know of? Got the Cursed Sundays?
Well, Cursed Sundays just announced that they're wanting to do another Bring the Bash, so that'll be really cool, hopefully.
That's down like Wollongong or something like that?
Yeah, down south, so...
Yeah, that'll be cool. Their last 2 or 3 events have been really good.
Oh, really amazing. Good. I'd love to hopefully get on the entry list if I can, so...
Yeah. I know Jesse and his 86 and Andrew, they drive down there at that. And that's really cool to see.
Saw the videos last time. That was... Yeah. It looks like a perfect track for Corollas, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the snow is gone at Ebisu.
Haven't you just booked tickets?
Yes, but I'm going in June and in November. So if you listen to this and you'll be there in November, come say hi. It's really easy to spot my car. It's got purple flames on the bonnet, white R32 with a black bonnet with purple flames. Can't miss it. But and I'll be there in June, but I'll be totally off season. I'm going to go there for about 3 to 4 days, and I'll probably be by myself at the track because it's starting to warm up then. Not too popular. That's after people have been there for the May Matsuri, which I think is around April, May, not May, June. And
that'd be nice to have your tracks to yourself, though. Heaps of practice
5
time.
tracks to myself to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I can't think of much better.
Nope.
Have the tyre machine all to myself too. Not waiting in the
lineups.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be good. I hope my car lasts 2 more trips this year. And
Man, have faith in the RV20, all right?
yeah, at least I'll have the time to fix it, having 2 trips too. So,
Exactly.
I got to fit a cage this year and some other bits and pieces. And I'm tossing up on putting a lock kit in it because it's currently only got the lock washers. That's all it's got. And I'm tossed up on doing a lock kit. I don't know. I haven't. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah,
So
it's
a lot of effort that I can't be bothered doing.
Big job, eh?
Yeah, especially in another country on the ground in the dirt. So
Yeah.
we'll see. The hardest part's doing the cross member. So we'll see how we go. Any other news? Any other events coming up in the next few weeks?
Well, I'm doing Archerfield Drift on Thursday.
Oh, yep. I'll come out and film that. So,
That'll be cool.
Yeah, I'll post the link on the Facebook page for that when I've finished with that one.
Yeah, cool.
And
Be interesting to see how the 34 goes now that I've actually had it aligned.
it'll be your first time driving a 34 at Archfield as well.
Yep.
So,
That's it, so
for anyone that wants to know, Archfield's the track that's basically run by Luke Fink, who does DCA as well. So, is DCA doing a competition this year? I haven't really seen anything advertised.
I haven't
for
really looked on the DCA page that much this year. It's been
ADGP's gone.
ADGP's gone.
Is there any drift events competitions in Australia other than that? No,
Not that I know of. Like Luke Fink puts on his own competition every now and then, but
Yeah,
that's
like every
also
month or two.
mainly supported by DCA as well. So
and that's usually at Archfield.
yeah,
Oh, you got rally drift competition.
yeah.
And that's picking up like, I don't think you get ADGP level drivers going to that, but it's like the step below. So you have like 400 to 600 horsepower cars still. That's, yeah, they got it to a pro and an amateur. So let's see how that goes now that ADGP's gone. Those drivers have to have somewhere to go. You know, their sponsors have paid for their cars to get built. They got to drive somewhere.
that's it.
They're not going to pay for them to just drift at World Time Attack once a year. So see what happens with that. New Zealand, actually, they'll have a fair few events coming up. I might look into that next week.
Yeah, true.
speak to the
Actually,
mate
yeah,
over there.
speaking of drift events in New Zealand,
They were drifting on the weekend.
They just opened up the new drift track out at Mary.
Okay, which island's that?
North Island.
North Island? Near Auckland or?
I'm pretty sure it's near Auckland. I'm not sure the exact location, but
Okay.
looks pretty hectic. Walls are apparently very vicious.
Right.
Yeah, some dude I follow on Instagram is real cool. He unfortunately tagged it in his S13 and
How tagged it? Did he tag it?
he tagged it. So
nice.
it's fixable, but
Yeah.
it'll be up and off the road for a few months. But yeah, no, it'd be good to see him fix it all up. It's a cool car. But yeah, that track looks really good.
Right. What type of track is it? Tight, fast?
Super tight kart track style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Built for a drifter?
yeah, purpose-built drift track.
Okay.
So that's
Right.
really cool. Like
Interesting. I might have to
very
look that up.
Japanese inspired.
Yeah, cool. I know that they were drifting. I saw on this really picturesque road on the weekend. My mate Joel, who I met at Ebisu, was drifting that in his S14 on the weekend. It's like overlooking like this picturesque like beach type area. You know, it's like right up high. Like when you see the videos from like Europe and they got like the ocean down below them and they're drifting up in the mountain. It was exactly like that. And I'm like, wow, I just go there for the view. Like, so there, I don't know where that was, but somewhere in New Zealand, that looked really cool. I saw a few videos from that. But I might look up some New Zealand stuff for next week and anything out of Europe. I think they're all still covered in snow.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're really going to be doing too much.
Nah,
It's
from
all
what
off
I've
season
heard,
for America and Europe right now.
yeah, it's all under snow at the moment. So
Yeah. I don't think anything will pick up maybe till next month.
Where was it? They were doing snow lake drifting with some Supras.
Really?
Last week.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that is a bit of news, actually. Yeah, definitely.
Doing jump drifts in Supras in the snow. Yeah, Frederick Asbo and...
who was the other guy?
I can't remember. Yeah.
He was one... The other guy was actually the one who was doing the jump part, who in all the videos was getting, like, the real air. Oswo was in the front.
Yeah.
But... that looked cool, and that broke the internet, like with the snow jump stuff in Supras, because you never see Supras doing anything remotely cool. But yeah, but
sorry, Supra drivers, all right? He didn't read it.
But yeah, like that's definitely videos to watch. Yeah, I'd say if you missed it, type in YouTube like Supra snow jump drifting. It'll show up.
Yeah, it's like definitely. Only one video that it'll be that one.
Yeah, because no one drifts Supras. So there was a few people, but still. But yeah, that was definitely one. Yeah, okay, I did forget about that.
Yeah, I did too, just until then, eh?
Yeah, cool. Well, that's an hour. So we did it. Third time running. We'll try not to be late next time as well. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
you can catch us up on TuneIn, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Pocket Cast, of course, iTunes and YouTube. I'm hoping that once the weather cools down, we might start filming this too, and you'll be able to see Kitsune shaking all of his hair and making lots of noise as we're recording this, as he's done like 4 times in this recording. So you'll be able to see that when he does that, not just hear it. And I do apologise for the shaking dog noise in the background. But other than that, I think we're done. Yeah, I'll upload probably next Thursday. Not next Thursday, in the Thursday in a fortnight. Or Americans 2 weeks. You don't know what a fortnight is. And yeah, we'll catch you then.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.